All right. Hey, everybody. So today my guest for the podcast is Oscar Setiawan. Am I saying your last name correct, by the way?
Almost right. A lot of people get it wrong. That's why I never are, saying my last name. But the way you pronounce it is Setiawan.
Setiawan. All
There you
right. So
go.
I'm here with Oscar Setiawan,
There you
and
go.
I've been looking forward to this interview for a while. So Oscar is someone that I've been getting to know throughout quarantine. We met through our mentorship with Pace Morby, and out of all of the students in the mentorship, Oscar is among the few that really stood out to me the most. He's a straightforward, personable, focused guy who's ridiculously funny. And since joining the membership, I've actually watched Oscar close several real estate deals using creative strategy, as well as help a handful of other students with their own deals, as well as their own businesses. So Oscar is a serial entrepreneur, investor, and full-on visionary. Today, I want to get to know you a little bit better
Sure.
and dive into your past, learn about what you're doing currently, and talk about what your future plans are for
Of course.
yourself and your business.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I mean, this is such an honor because one of my goals is actually to have something what you have right now. So I'm always trying to connect with people on a higher level, people like you. So this is like, I'm honored. I'm learning from you, not the other way around. I've been preparing for this. Having a podcast, having a YouTube channel, having all this streaming media, and being a geek, being in tech, I'm like, well, why can't I do this? And then I met you, and I'm like, well, let's do it, Marlon. Like, let's be a guest so I can learn from you too.
Yeah, absolutely.
So
I
this is
mean,
my pleasure. This is my honor.
your social media, you've stepped up, man. You went from having almost zero social media presence to fully out there. Your Instagram posts are coming out every day. I know you've got your daughter working on that.
Yeah.
So we're definitely going to tap into that a little later. But let's start off with, where are you from? If I remember correctly, you told me that you weren't actually a natural born citizen, right?
No, I was, so my family and I migrated to the US from Indonesia when I was 15. That was in 1995.
Oh, wow. What was that like coming over here from another country? Were you speaking the language when you first arrived?
So I was fortunate that my parent enrolled me in English courses when I was like 10 years old, and it was like private courses. So, and then I was always a nerd. I was always a geek. So I played American games, right? All those like small and big, like if you remember like Doom, like
Oh
the
my
first
gosh, I
Doom,
love
I
Doom.
played that on floppy disk, right? I learned English from that, not the best. Castle Wolfenstein, right?
Yes. Oh
And
man,
then
we would have been friends growing
I
up.
know, like King's Quest as like the first like RPG, and then obviously you have Nintendo and Atari, right? Those are all in English, and then you have Star Wars and you have Star Trek. Those are where I learned from,
Wow, I love it.
Yeah. So it was just funny that growing up, English has always been part of our lives, right? And for me, it was from games and entertainment. And that's most people learn. It was a culture shock, even though we know English and we know kind of like what America looks like, because going into the Midwest was really just not only a culture shock but like a season change, right? Because as we grew up where it was always 90 to 100 degrees all year long, and coming in January it was blizzard.
Yeah, that's a big change.
It
That's
was a big change.
huge.
Yeah, it was a big change. I had to go into a propeller plane because I remember I was by myself, and I landed in Chicago O'Hare for the very first time by myself. I had to carry all my baggages, and I realized now why my mom gave me a baseball jacket, because it was cold, and I didn't even wear that throughout the whole journey because it was hot where I came from.
Yeah, they're like, Mom, I don't need this
Yeah,
big
right. It's like,
bulky
why are
jacket. Like, it's
you
just
giving me this like bulky, jacket or whatever, right? The first time I went out the airplane, it was blizzard basically. So that was my welcoming, nature welcoming, the way of nature welcoming me to the U.S. So
so let me
it was
ask
fun.
you, what Would you say that you had gained a life lesson actually from coming from Indonesia, coming from another culture, another part of the world entirely, and being dropped into a whole new culture? Has that been something that has helped shape the way you live? Because I know from getting to know you, it's funny, you know, you're Asian, I'm black, but you know, it seems that you just see people for people. And I find
Mhm.
that's a common trait from individuals who are well traveled. Doesn't matter what culture you are. Once you start to step into different cultures, you seem to just pick up on that universal language that is shared with all of humanity.
Yeah, yeah. So we always realized that we were the minority, and we are still the minority. I'm Chinese Indonesian, which means my grandfathers are Chinese and they migrated to Indonesia. So we were always the minority too, even though I was born in Indonesia, even though my parent was born in Indonesia. And coming to the US, we're really just still a minority too, because there's no Indonesian all around us. There's probably like 20 people in Urbana-Champaign that was Indonesian. So I always see myself as a person, as an individual, as instead of skin color, instead of race, because I have to play well with everyone that's around me, and
Right.
everyone has pretty much different skin. Everyone speak different languages, and being in a student town in Urbana-Champaign, everyone pretty much looks different. you know I mean, you have the Midwestern, you get the farmer types, you get the African Americans, you get the real Africans, you get the Chinese, and you have to do differently between the Chinese and the Taiwanese and the Singaporeans and the Malaysian, even though they kind of look the same when you just pass them by, right? Like Chinese and Korean and Thai, so I get to know people not for their outwardness, but from like the way they speak, the way they behave, the way they mind things, the way they learn from each other, the way they tackle problems. I was a tech support, like a computer support throughout my years as a student. So I get to handle different problems from every single different students, right? From the undergraduate to masters to PhD, regardless of skin. So
Yeah.
the world to me is, we are all people. We are all people. We respect everyone. It's in the way we brought up. It's the way we brought up by our parents, the way we think, the way we hustle, the way we move forward. That's what combine us and make us real as one.
And that's what I like about you, because it resonates off of you. Whenever we talk, whenever we have conversation, you're able to be as open and as frank with the conversation
Yeah.
because people feel that from you. They know that you're genuine. They know that you can make a comment potentially about you can say, like, hey, that's a Jewish neighborhood, but everyone knows that you're not saying it in an offensive way. You're just saying it
Exactly.
as a very matter of fact that
Yeah.
neighborhood is predominantly Jewish. You know,
Yeah.
so that is really cool. What I want to ask you is, what was the start of your entrepreneurship journey? You said you were in tech before that. From school you went into the tech sector, you were with
Hmm.
IT,
Hmm.
and that was your 9 to 5. When
Hmm.
did the shift happen from 9 to 5 into entrepreneurship? Was it something that was combined together? Was it a total quitting cold turkey that, hey, I just quit my job yesterday and now I'm stepping into this world of I don't know what's going to happen next?
Yeah.
What was that like?
So it's yes and no. As so this is based on my culture as Asian. We're all know that tiger moms. We all want they all want us to be engineers, lawyers, doctors, right? Basically, that's it, right?
Hmm.
If I had to take my pick, I would probably be in like art and photography, because that's like my passion. So this is why one of my early entrepreneur journey was to become a wedding photographer,
Oh,
and that
wow.
happened in 2005, right after we got married. So what happened was, I was always into photography, right? And back then, digital was just making its way, right? The first digital camera was still like $3,000. That
Right.
would cost like $500 now. I remember getting my first memory card that still cost $500.
I
That only
remember
costs
those days.
$20, right? But what interests me was, we hired this wedding photographer that was so personable, and we were able to connect in such a deep level that I said, I want to be like him. This is what I like. I was meant to be like that. because of my passion as a photographer, my passion as an artist, right? And so, right after we got married, I told my wife, I want to be a photographer, but I know we have to make some money, right? Me being, engineer, it's like, I don't want to give this up because it is a nice salary and it has a nice benefit, right? So that's where I start as, my real entrepreneur journey. I was doing side jobs here and there, right? I was selling baseball cards. I was selling basketball cards, trading them for money and comic books and everything, right? But never in my life after 2005, where I start, this is my business plan. This is what I want to do. I want to shoot weddings for a living. I want to see if I can make it. I want to see what kind of clients I get. I want to use the talent that I think I have more than just being an engineer. So I had two jobs, basically, starting from 2005 until 2012.
Wow.
Right. So I was working from shooting 5 weddings my first year to 10 weddings my second year to 15 weddings my third year to almost 20 weddings my fourth year and fifth year and sixth year. Wow. And I did really good to a point where I was actually making more money in my wedding entrepreneur business than my 9-to-5 jobs. So
that's usually a good point where you're like, do I need this 9-to-5 job? That's a solid. It's kind of like what Pace tells us, saddle up your second horse before you jump off of the first one.
Yeah.
So I think that's crucial that people know you actually did stick with your traditional 9-to-5 that had the benefits, that was potentially sapping your energy. You weren't in love with it. I'm assuming you didn't hate it, but you just weren't necessarily in love with it. Mm-hmm. And you stuck it out. You found the energy, you found the time to pursue this brand new passion. So when you started off with the photography, I'm actually curious, what was that like? How did you go about and get your first customer? Because at that point you had never done photography. It was only a hobby on the side. How did you go out and get your first gig, your first job?
Craigslist, believe it or not, it's Craigslist. So I had to beg my friends to photograph their wedding on the side for her. It was so embarrassing. It was so funny. We weren't even invited to the wedding. I was such a hustler. We weren't, their friends, their Indonesian friends, we weren't even invited to the wedding. And I said, please, can I just be a photographer on your wedding? And so I did that. That was my very, very first gig as a wedding photographer. And I also helped other photographers to be their assistant for almost nothing, basically. So I had to hustle. I did everything for free, and I had to stay up late night to learn Photoshop, to learn whatever, editing and everything. And Facebook wasn't even, there was Facebook. There was also MySpace at that time.
Right.
Facebook wasn't the big giant that it is right now. Right. Google wasn't as big as advertising giant as it is right now. There wasn't even an AdWords back in 2005.
Wow.
Right?
So you hustled, man. It was old school. You just went out, you found people, you talked to them. You said you made your opportunity. You created your own opportunities.
Mm-hmm. Yes, I had to, because otherwise, how did you break into an industry that you never? So my mindset was that anything that you go into a business, you have to study for. Right. And one of the parts, my old mindset was like, you have to go to college for this. So if you're doing wedding photography, well, you better have an art degree or something. So that was my old mindset. But then throughout my journey, I realized, well, it might be good to have a degree, but it doesn't, it's not necessary. It doesn't kill your dream as long as you hustle and as long as you learn and you make use of your time to learn and to just go forward.
See, I'm really happy you said that, because that's something that I had to learn the hard way. I learned through my own life experience. At some point, it hit me that all of the preparation school was doing for me was good. It was additional supplementation. However, it never actually equated to the real thing. And ultimately, when you had to go out and start to do the real thing, there was still a massive learning curve. Maybe the school and the traditional education helped lower that learning curve, but you still had to go out there and actually figure out how to be hands-on, figure out how to talk to people, figure out how to create the opportunity, figure out how to fumble around through the actual experience of doing and implementing the knowledge. So then it became, well, why don't I just go out and do this? It's kind of like reading a book on how to ride a bike. At the end of the day, you're going to have to get out and ride the bike. So why not just start there you're probably going to figure it out a lot sooner that way. So
Yeah.
it sounds like you're saying the same thing as, you were in that position of old school thinking, told you, hey, Oscar, you're supposed to go to college for this if you really want to pursue this. But then your experience taught you, no, you just need to do this. You need to make up your mind and keep on doing it until it works.
Yeah. Yeah. You just need to, you need to spend the right amount of time, get the right resources. And this is what I wish I had back in 2005 is a personal mentor, right? Because I have to stumble, I have to make my own mistakes. I have to, really just, I still fail forward, but I fell harder. And sometimes it's unnecessary failure because I didn't have the right people to talk to. I didn't have the right people to just ask questions, right? It's not as easy as right now. You can just post something on Facebook or you can just have a group, right? You still have to go find the right forum. And there was a right for the wedding photography forum, but guess what? Everyone was busy and there was no Zoom. There was ICQ where you can still text. I didn't even have a cell phone until 2002, and everything was still expensive, right? So it was a totally different world, So it was harder as a market penetration, but people still do it. I still did it, so.
Absolutely. So how long did the photography business last? Or is that still a business that's running in the background that I don't even know about?
So funny thing is I do still have clients, and my clients are like higher end clients. So they're basically like CEOs and COOs of like higher end companies. They would just kind of call me every year or so to say, hey, Oscar, can we have our family photos every year?
That's
so
awesome.
These people these are people that I want. I don't even have to advertise. And every time I give them my price, they be just, okay, we'll write the check. And it's a win-win. I give them the experience. And even now that it's not my main business anymore, I still keep my $30,000 equipment just because of this, and who knows, what can I do with this? So even when I start easing out from or transitioning from becoming a different entrepreneur, I still keep what I have, as my experience, and I also have connection, right? Because, remember, all these connections is what's important. It's what really, really what you want out of any single business that you have.
See, I'm so happy to hear you say that, because that was a lesson I learned within this last year that I wish I picked up on a little bit sooner, or I just appreciated a little bit earlier. I've come from the world of parkour. And as I stepped into the world of real estate, the very initial thoughts were, I need to leave the parkour world completely behind me, because those guys don't care about business and they still just want to jump around and they want to have fun, and they're not doing what I'm trying to do now. So I need to go and put myself in this new circle, which I did have to do. However, one of my mentors told me, hey, you actually don't need to completely disconnect and divorce from it entirely. You can still be a part of it and actually show them what you're doing now, because there might be connections in there that are turning into something.
Exactly.
And just today, I actually had another one of those experiences where I did a private lesson. So like yourself, parkour is not my main focus anymore, my main business, but I still do private lessons with my favorite clients because I like working with them. I like working with the kids. I like the families. So I went over to the house today, did a private lesson. I'm able to charge my higher end price. And while we're hanging out and we're talking, I'm seeing the house for the first time. The house is a multi-million-dollar home. The house is absolutely gorgeous. I finally meet the father for the first time, and we're sitting, and guess what he's looking for? He's looking for some investment properties.
There you go.
And I asked him, hey, what's your budget? He says, hey, I'm just looking for some multifamilies, and I could spend anywhere from $2 to $3 million. And I said, say no more. I'll go find those for you. You sit here and you wait. But that's a connection that came from my old endeavor. So that's something that I want people listening to recognize. Nothing you do is ever a waste of time if you're doing it properly and if you're doing it the right way. Ultimately, every experience you have, it can carry on into the next thing. And just because you're doing one thing today doesn't mean you can't do something else tomorrow. So, Oscar, let me ask you, how did you pivot from photography into real estate? Or was there another industry in between? Because I know you also had your restaurant as well.
Yeah. So the main reason why I transitioned from photography was because I decided to start a family restaurant. So that was the time at the end of 2012 where we decided, between me and my mom, we wanted to start a family restaurant. And the main reason was I saw an opportunity where we can be unique. We can be the only brand in the town, that does this, and with little or even no advertising, everyone would just come to our restaurant. We all know how competitive the restaurant business are, right? If you just open a burger place, I mean, you gotta be either crazy on social media advertising and giving stuff free left and right, to make some money, or and that's where I learned from photography. Is I learned how to brand myself, and I
Hmm.
learned how to market, and I learned how to be a specialist. That's the key, right? If you know what you are good at and you can be a specialist in any of the things that you are into, then you can dominate that market,
Just so you
right?
know, Oscar, when you talk, I take notes because
Oh,
you
cool.
drop gold, bro. You drop gold.
Yeah. So this is why I always say, whenever you learn a new business, learn how to be the specialist in that business and not just be a um, producer, because a producer, it's not enough now. Look at how many restaurants out there. Look at how many photographers out there. Look at how many real estate investors out there. Look at how many realtors out there. I mean, look at how many podcasters out there, right? You have to be able to distinct yourself. And it doesn't mean to be all in, all knowing. All you need to know is one thing that people need, right? If you know how to serve that, you will have people who comes to you, right? For example, in the case of this restaurant, it was really easy for me, right? We know in Chicago, there's no Indonesian restaurant. Any Indonesian restaurant previously that opened, they closed because they had the wrong target market. And this is with me coming in from a business perspective, because I learned, right? From my photography business, right? So even in my photography business, I was able to make a niche out of myself to target multi-ethnic weddings. And that's how I pretty much found out by accident my market, right?
Wow.
So my market was like huge Indian weddings, huge Jewish weddings, huge like Greek slash Jewish slash, Romanian weddings. It was like all multi-ethnic cultures, and they connected with me because I'm an immigrant. And that's how I sold myself. That's how I told my story, just like what I did to you. Like, hey, I'm an immigrant. I know what I've been through, and I know, and I'm talking to the parent now, right? Which is basically first generation, right? So they connected me on a different level. Like, well, we want to support each other, and this is where skin, race doesn't matter, because at the end of the day, I was able to connect with them as immigrants, as someone who came to this land of the free and opportunity to help each other, and that's how I brand myself for weddings. And I'll just continuing that as a restaurant, because now, I was 2 years ago, I was invited by the Ministry of Travel and Tourism to Indonesia. They paid for my trips, all of it, everything. I met with the minister, and I was given like a prize, but we were called the Indonesian ambassador in Chicago as a cultural icon. And it was not something that I did special. It was something that I just thought I could do by bringing what I know as an Indonesian. That's it. It was just showing ourselves as a culture, as an Indonesian in this like frozen tundra. Like, how would you feel if you walk into a restaurant where it was snow and cold outside, and suddenly you come inside, it was all tropical? How would you feel if you like having like a meat stew every single day, or potatoes or French fries, and suddenly you come into like a restaurant that can serve you a dish that has 24 different spices and ingredients?
Wow.
It's just like that. It was really so natural for me, right? The decor that I brought from Indonesia. The thought that I put in design, and you can probably look at my videos when we said the last day of Rickshaw Republic, how I saw this as a museum, as an icon, and not just as a restaurant, right? But that's what I created. I created an experience. And that's what you have to do in all your businesses, to be the specialist and to create experience in anything that you do. And people will buy the experience, not the product. The,
Oh,
the
I love
product is the experience, right? So, and you can, if you are selling experience, there's no monetary value that you can put on that. There's a cap, but people who see the value, they will be able to justify that experience.
You know, it's funny you say that because that's something I tapped into with my parkour lessons and my parkour classes. At some point it hit me. It's like, oh, the people that work with me, they're working with me for the experience I provide, not necessarily the technical knowledge that I'm giving.
Yeah.
And the people that I go and I purchase things from, like my barber, for instance, I go to my barber because he provides a full barbershop experience from the moment I walk in to the moment I leave. The fact that I can schedule my appointment, the fact that he greets me a certain way every time I come in, and he does things a certain way, that there's an entire experience, and he's conscious about creating that for his clients.
Mm-hmm.
And you saying the same thing, it's all spot on, where, you know, businesses that do focus on providing that experience, whether it's customer based, whether it's service based, whether it's product based, there's something about working with them that makes it a little bit different, a little bit more special. So
Yeah,
that's cool to hear that your restaurant that you created, it was able to stand out because you stood out. You were creating something more than just a place to come and get food and to get something to eat, but you actually made it a place to come and be and to do and to experience a culture outside in this frozen tundra. That's amazing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we did almost zero marketing in the 8 years that we opened.
Wow.
Almost zero marketing, no AdWords. We did some Facebook ads just because we want to target people just for special events, so people know right away, right? Because there's something like where, I mean, we did our own marketing using MailChimp, you know, to us mail blast, but that's almost cost nothing. We never give up food for free. We were instantly on every single television show because of our uniqueness. We were on NBC, we were on ABC, we were all this, you know, everyone. Just the first month that we opened, we were interviewed by four different magazines.
Wow.
The first 6 months that we opened, we were interviewed by pretty much every single foodie network channels, because people are looking for content too. And I realized that if you were to open another burger place, well, guess what? I mean, it's not going to work.
Right. Everyone's already told that story.
Yeah, right. If you open another, like, you know, a basic Chinese place, well, it's going to be harder for you because you're competing against other. You know, we had organic SEO from day one. I never paid. I paid for the website designer to design my website and my brand, but I never paid any money on SEO. And if you look at, I mean, if people look at Indonesian restaurant in Chicago, we will be number one.
Wow.
Because we're the only one.
That's cool. You know, it's so funny. Like, as you were saying that, I was like, man, I need to tap into like my Trinidadian culture, go into the most suburban white neighborhood I can find and open up a restaurant and be like, hey guys, come have some Trinidadian food.
Yeah. I mean,
and, like, come have the Trinidadian
there's always
experience.
opportunity. There's always opportunity.
Yeah, that's awesome. So let me ask you, how many businesses is it that you currently have operating and running?
So I'm still technically running a passive photography business, just because I still cater towards that client, you know, one or two a year, right? And I love doing that because that's basically my hobby. That's my passion, right? So I gladly do that and I get paid for it, right? So there's just like, you know, some extra income. The restaurant, we're trying to sell the assets, and then we're also trying to take that online, meaning people are still contacting us for private catering. In fact, I just got a couple emails saying, hey, we would like you to cater here and here for our wedding. We would love to cater you for our birthdays and everything, right? Because people know us in the past 8 years.
Wow.
So I feel like I don't even need a physical store now to continue the business.
That's so cool.
I also have some products, some brand, because of the brand I built. So I have a sambal, which is a chili sauce that we make in-house. People from all over the United States buy that. You know, we even had like someone who came directly from LA, and whenever he was visiting, he would buy like 2 full boxes of it, you know, to take back, you know. And people would, you know, if it's not, the thing is like with those, they're heavy, right? So the shipping is expensive. So we're trying to figure out how to ship that with a reasonable cost, so we can save money, we can sell that as a reasonable cost, and we can break into that market. So that's what kind of I'm trying to figure out. And plus now I'm pretty much running my real estate investing business full time. So I'm transitioning from restaurant. I started real estate investing in October 2016. That's when I learned real estate investing from zero, basically. So even before 2016, I didn't have any knowledge on what real estate investing is. I just know that I've had houses, and if I have to move, I have to sell my house. That's basically it.
Oh man. So you got 4 businesses running or 3 at the time. And then in 2016, you bring on the 4th, which is this business of real estate. What was the start of that? How did that look? What was your first investment like?
So to be honest, I was bored. And that, because the restaurant at that point was just kind of running, right? I mean, we were running in 2013, and in 3 years, I have the right staff, I have the right schedules, I was able to optimize the business, and I was like, what else can I do? So at that point I started looking into different investing vehicles, right? And I look into stocks, I look into bonds, I look into forex, I look into bitcoins, I look into everything. And then I found about real estate investing. Obviously at that time, HGTV start coming up with like flip it, and all this like flipping channel and rehab channel. So naturally I was looking into that. It's like, oh, that's nice, and I saw the numbers, like, really? so I'm like, maybe I should learn into that. So that's how I started. I basically went to all different forums. I went to all different local RIA meetings, right? And I found a local RIA meeting when I joined, and basically I learned from a mentor there, and I had a pretty good group of investors, and it went on from there. So yeah.
Nice. So you just dove right in. HGTV caught you. You're like, flipping a house looks pretty easy.
Yeah.
Went out to the local RIA, said, hey guys, like, give me a house to flip.
Yeah.
And someone was there, so a mentor was there and said, like, all right, come on board. Like, we'll show you the ropes.
Yeah.
Nice.
That's basically it. And I mean, me being the type personality I have, I mean, I set a goal. I remember I set a goal after I joined, because I had to pay some money, right? But I wasn't afraid to pay the money. I was just like, well, this better be worth it, right? And so, because this was the biggest investment I've made, right, in so many years, right? So I'm like, well, okay, let's do this. If it's worth it, I have to set a goal, right? And this is what I recommend everyone when they're starting a business. Like, set a goal. What is your mission? What is your vision? And what is your goal in 6 months to a year? So in 2016, I said, in a year, I want to have 1 wholesale, I want to have 1 flip, and I want to have 1 buy and hold, because I want to be able to experience every single one. Because back then, that's what they were teaching you, right? There's a way to wholesale, there's a way to buy and hold rentals, and there's a way to flip, right? And they all make money. So I want to experience everything in a year. Going to 2017, with my drive and hustling and everything, I was basically working about 80 hours a week minimum, and this is with the restaurant, and restaurant takes a lot of hours.
Yeah, I used to work in a restaurant, man.
Yeah.
So it's like, that was some of the most backbreaking work I ever did.
Yeah. So I wouldn't be able to do it without the support of my family, right? I told my wife, look, if I'm paying this much for this mentorship, for this group, I want to set a goal, and I want you to support it, because I don't want you to be mad at me for not being here on the weekends for the next year. So we discussed this, right? And they say, yeah, let's do it. So that's what I did. Every Saturday, every Sunday, I learned real estate. Every night after I went home from the restaurant, I spent 9 to 12 learning.
Wow.
And that's how I caught up, right? That's how I was able to. So in 2017, instead of having 1 flip or 1 wholesale, 1 flip, and 1 rentals, I was able to do 3 wholesales, 2 rentals, and 1 flip. That was within the first year.
Man, that's impressive, because that's hustling. What were you doing? Just out door knocking, cold calling, putting out door hangers, cold, like everything?
So back then, I was actually really into auction because I
Oh,
learned
nice.
from a mentor from my group that auction in Chicago, at least in Chicago market, auction was one of the best place to get some really good deals, right? And we know all about real estate. When we fix it, we create equity, right? And so that's the number one source or leads for distressed properties, right? I mean, I remember, and that time I was just, to be honest, stealing knowledge from people. I would talk to everyone. I would go to every single RIA meetings, and I would listen carefully to some people. I would talk. I would ask questions. I would shut up, and I would listen. I would put it in my mind, and I would go home and research what he was just talking about, right? And if someone said this address, I would just write that down, and I will see if I can grab that address. If I was able to grab that. I was basically trying to steal their houses. And that's what I do. I just be honest, just it's something that I had a drive to say, if I want to be good at this game, all I need to do is look at the people who are already doing it successful and see what type of property they have. And I want to get pretty much the same properties that they have, because I know that's the best case scenario.
See, but that right there is actually ridiculously smart. And a lot of people don't tap into that for whatever reason, for pride or for other silly reasons. I, as a coach, learned that I would teach my kids, my students, guys, there's no reason to reinvent the wheel.
Mm-hmm.
Take what we already figured out. We figured this out. Steal it. Take it. It's yours.
Yeah,
the information at the end of the day doesn't belong to anyone but whoever's going to use it. If you're not going to utilize it, the information sits with you. Someone said to me, an idea comes to you, right?
Mm-hmm.
But it doesn't stay with you long if you don't use it. So as it comes to you, it slows down and it stays within your vicinity. But if you don't do something with it immediately, it then travels off to the next person. And it's whoever takes action with it. That's who the idea truly belongs to.
Yep.
So an idea is just looking for a home. So if you heard these numbers and you heard this name and you heard this technique and you're like, great, I'm going to go do that right now, then you deserve it. It's not stealing at that point. It's, hey, we all had access to the same information. We're all playing the same game. You just chose to sit on the sidelines a little bit longer. And you decided to get into the game, which is really crucial. I think that's cool to hear, to know that that's what the beginning looked like, that you weren't just born into this. It didn't just come naturally to you. You just went, learned, and implemented right away.
Yeah. I mean, as soon as I heard the word auction, I learned everything I could about auction. And I went myself to auction, like all the auctions. And I was like nervous, and I had to learn this, and I had to, the hardest part for me, because to be honest, for the longest time, I consider myself an introvert, right? I mean, you probably couldn't figure it out because the way
I was going to say that.
Right? But I was like, I was growing up as an introvert. I mean, I didn't like to tell people anything because I just always wasn't feel comfortable, right? But I had to break out of that shell, right? I had to start asking questions. I had to learn from people. I took all the failures experience that I had to make sure that whenever I make a new mistake, it would be a new mistake that no one had ever done, right? Or at least a new mistake that is different than what I heard from other people, right? So, still fail forward, but fail softer, right?
I love it.
Put a cushion there, put like, now you know that you need a knee pad. I mean, you still fall, right? Like if you're doing like, skateboarding or whatnot, you wear a helmet, you wear something, wear the right knee pads, but still fall.
Right. I mean, that's how you learn. You got to go a little too far to the left and a little too far to the right to find that sweet spot in the middle. That's how you learn where it actually is, by gaining the reference of knowing, okay, this isn't what works. This doesn't work. So I know what works is somewhere here in the middle.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, and that's really, the experience is shaped by your personality. And that's why, you create an experience based on what you can bring values to, based on your personality and your experiences. So
I love that, man. I truly do. That's valuable knowledge. So I really hope, if people are listening to that, go back and listen to that part again and really internalize it. Internalize the fact that you are going to mess up, you are going to make mistakes, and you are going to fall flat on your face. But ultimately, it's not a failure as long as you choose to get back up. Because once you do that, then all it was a minor setback. It was you learning ways that don't work in order so that you can learn ways that do work. And it's going to make more sense to you why the ways that work, you're going to understand it at a deeper level. You're truly going to comprehend it of, like I can tell you fire is hot, don't touch fire. But if you just let your fingers get burnt just a little bit, you're now going to understand that knowledge at such a deeper level. It's going to make way more sense to you. Oh, fire is hot. I don't ever need to be told that lesson ever again. I don't ever need to be taught that lesson ever again. I have the experience to now guide me, which is way more powerful than just having theory.
Yeah. And one thing, if I can add, is surround yourself with people you can ask help. People you can confidently know can be a partner for you, right? When I say fail forward, fail often, also know to be able to raise your hand and have the other person who's standing up reach out and pick you back up. That's key. That's something that I missed in my early years of being an entrepreneur, because I thought I was a one-man shop, right? And we all are to a certain point. But now I surround myself, like with you, Marlon, and with all the other people that I find on the internet, virtually and physically here. I force myself to surround me with the people that I can help and also I can rely on, So, I love, I love comic books. So, I always say, if you're Batman, find your Robin, right? If you're Superman, create your Justice League. Right?
I love that.
And so, I always tell people, hey, I'm like Batman and you're Superman, and like, oh, you're like Wonder Woman, or like you're like Flash, because you run so fast I can't catch up, but I have to stop you somewhere so you don't like crash on that brick wall, and then you can help me win against the villain.
I love that. And it's so funny. And this is how I know we're kind of vibing on the same level, because that was going to be a question I had for you, which is the importance of creating a network. Like yourself, I didn't understand the value in networking and value in being a team player. I always came back to this mentality of, well, if I want it done right, I have to do it by myself. I have to do it on my own. And that would be the mindset I would get into, versus now I'm learning, just like yourself, to surround myself with people that fill in the gaps for me. So rather than me trying to plug every hole in the ship, I go and I find people that are different sizes that can plug different holes that I don't fit in. So it's like I talk to you all the time, and you have these crazy ideas that just boom, 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 they snap into existence with you so quickly, where I know, okay, if I'm really lacking in creativity, I can go and talk to Oscar, and Oscar's going to pull bunnies out of a hat all day long and just be like, well, look at this. Well, look at this. Well, look at this. And I'm just going to be like, Oscar, how are you even thinking this quickly? So figuring out other people's superpowers so that you can focus on just yours. The Flash doesn't try to fly. That's not his superpower. Exactly. He just knows I run fast. So if I work on running faster and faster and faster, I unlock more of my own power. Now I could run backwards through time.
Yep.
But exactly. He wouldn't have gotten there if he tried to be Superman, try to fly all day.
Yeah. And that's it. I mean, again, I try to be fun in every businesses, but I treat them seriously. But that's an element where I enjoy, because, as an entrepreneur, the thing that I really dragged when I was working for Motorola, which is, like from 2000 to 2012 was, I had all these ideas and all these improvements that I can do to the product, but because of their limitations and their way of thinking and everything, I wasn't able to implement. And that created frustration, because at the end of the day, that becomes a 9-to-5 job where I didn't really care anymore, because I wasn't able to make an impact, right? Because I was coming there basically because I know, at one point, I was trying my best to get laid off. That's how bad it is. So I can pursue my full-time photography. That was, I just, honest to God, I was trying my best every day to get laid off. But they didn't lay me off, because I guess I was doing a pretty good job. Even when I survived, Every year there's a layoff in Motorola from 2000 to 2012. Every year, from like 2009, when my photography business took off, I was always saying to my wife, like, I hope they laid me off this year, you know? So yeah, but then at the end of the day, I had to resign in 2012 because I really wanted to get the restaurant going. So.
You know what? It's funny you say that because I had a very similar experience where I was working a job and, there would be just days I would come in and just pray, like, please just fire me. And it never came. And eventually they made me quit. Like
Yeah.
I had to actually open up my mouth and just let them know, like, guys, I can't do this anymore. And everyone was so shocked, like, but what's wrong? It's like, so I think that's a good sign. Like if you're a young person or maybe even older, if you're in your life, in your job and you are just constantly dreading it and you're hating it and you're actively doing less and less of your work to almost just get fired and you're still not getting fired, maybe it's a sign that you actually have to be doing something else and you should look into pursuing something else that has a little bit more purpose to you. So, I'm not going to tell you to quit your day job or to quit your job, but look into finding something else. See if there's something that resonates with you, whether it be a hobby or a side hustle or something, and start to play with that in your downtime, in your spare time. And like yourself with your earlier photography business, see if you can start building that thing up. If that thing is able to build in your spare time, that's a really good sign that it's feeding you energy. It's giving you purpose. You enjoy it. And if you're able to match what you're doing in your 9-to-5 with your spare time hobby, then that's a sign that you shouldn't be really doing your 9-to-5 anymore. That's like, this is a very clear sign. Right. And if it surpasses, you're blind if you haven't quit yet, unless you're doing it for family reasons and you need the benefits. But if you're on your own and this is here or here, that's very clear signs to get out.
And I had a lot of private conversation from page mentorship to the other students. A lot of time those conversations turn to be not underwriting deal or not to have an exit strategy, but that turns out to be, well, what do you want financially for your family? Do you want to be a full-time in this, or do you just want some extra money so you can live a better life that that will fulfill your kind of happy place, right? And it becomes that. And when I understand what's their motivation, what's their drive, then I can give them the right exit strategy for the deal that I have on hand. Believe it or not, it became like that. A lot of conversation would be like, well, are you planning to quit your job, or do you want to do this on the side? If you want to do this on the side, then this is what you do. But if you want to quit your job, then this is what you do. So, and literally, a light bulb came off their heads, like, yeah, that's true. And then now that sets them a path to like financial freedom, or that sets them a path to know that, yeah, I still want to keep my job because of my family's condition and situation and everything, but that's what I'm going to focus on. This area or that area or this side of real estate investing, or rentals or just wholesaling or also flips. The strategy is not about the money. The strategy is not about how much ROI you can get. The strategy is about what drives you as a person, and what drives you as a family, as an individual, to fulfill your dreams. That's it.
See, Oscar, this is what I like about you. You are a really good listener, and ultimately you ask the right questions before you start listening. And you ask the question of, what is it that you want? Not you, Oscar, but you as in the person who you're listening to. Yeah. And then you begin to listen. And from there, you start to formulate the strategy. And it's funny, I think just by being around you and being around other folks like you, I've been picking this up, because as I analyze an appointment I went on today where we were talking to the seller, I don't know if you saw Will's live.
Yeah, I saw it
there. And when we were talking to the seller, at the end of the day, the guy was open to terms, But
Mm.
ultimately, what he was looking for was he was looking to move into a new place. He's downsizing, and he's always had the dream of buying a lot of land and building up a brand new home. So
Wow.
I said, well, that's not going to work if you sell to us on terms. Like, you're not going to have the money to go and buy a new land and fully develop this thing. You're going to need a bigger down payment than we would be willing to give you. Plus, you
Mm.
still have this mortgage here that, like, that just, it doesn't fit you. Your house is perfect. It's immaculate. It's in a great neighborhood with a great school district. You
Hmm.
need to list your house with a realtor. It would sell on the open market like that.
Yeah. Hmm. Yeah.
So it wasn't about us getting what we wanted. It was about listening to him, figuring out what he wants,
Yeah.
and working with him. And because of that, he turns out the guy's a funeral director,
Mm.
and he constantly has people coming in asking for estate attorneys
Oh
and,
my God.
hey,
Yeah.
what do we do with this house? Like, we don't know
Mhm.
what to do with this house.
Yeah.
And guess who he now wants to send all of that stuff to?
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
he said, hey, you guys are straight shooters. You guys came in
Mhm.
here. I see that you hustle. I see that you work hard, and you're just telling it to me straight. You're being completely upfront and honest with me, and
Mhm.
you're not trying to pull one over.
Yeah.
So ultimately, that came from doing what you're doing right now and what I've seen you do so many times and what you do each night for so many people. You ask them, what is it that they want? You listen, and then you create a solution. And to hear you say that about real estate, that it's the exact same thing. The strategy isn't even based on the house. It's really based on you. What are you looking for? What
Mhm.
is it that you want? And then I can tell you what strategy you need to do.
Yeah. Exactly. There's so many, I mean, there's so many vehicle that you can use to, for your finance, right? I mean, real estate is definitely one of the best, if not the best, that I believe. To be able to gain independence, your financial freedom, your family independence, free to do, all what you want to do is if you know how to ride that vehicle. Again, by the end of the day, it's not about the vehicle, it's how you drive it. And based on that is what kind of person are you?
I
What
love
type,
that.
what type of journey you want, right? You want to drive in the Autobahn, or do you want to drive in the highway, or do you want to drive in a rural road, right? It's so different. Or off-road, right?
Right.
Then you get a Jeep.
Yeah, it's figuring out what you want.
Yeah.
So let me ask you, on that topic of figuring out what you want, what are your plans for the future? What is it that Oscar is looking to do within the next 1 to 5 years?
So I've been trying to get the family involved in real estate, and now that my daughters are 11 and 13, well, 11 and 12, but she's turning 13 this July, so only in a couple of weeks. I want to challenge her. I want to open up her mind that college is not the only option. College is not the only default, de facto path that we offer, and that's really hard. That's really a challenge for me to be disrupting the status quo coming from an Asian. Because I mean, if you're in the US and if you're an entrepreneur, and this is what I love about in America, because entrepreneurship is alive and well, right? But if you're coming from Asia and you're coming from a normal family, the next thing is like, well, you graduate from high school, you get you get into the good college, you get scholarship, and then you go become a doctor, a lawyer, or an engineer, anything that has a license that can make 5 to 6 figures in 5 years. And forget about investing. I mean, you invest in your 401k, you invest in IRA, but your main thing is like, you got to get a job and
Right.
then get married and have children.
And it's got to be a respectable job that the family can be proud of, that
Exactly
mom and
right.
dad can show off.
Yeah, and that's why I wasn't even like going into the art school. I wasn't even going into entrepreneur or business school, right? My only de facto was like, well, I love to play games. I want to be engineer so I can make games. So that's why I went to computer science. And so now I'm challenging her, and I'm because of COVID and everything, it opens up a new opportunity, right? Where she's now staying at home and she's not doing any summer schools, and now I challenge her, hey, why don't I pay you to be my intern, to be my summer intern? So now she goes everywhere with me. We start with her becoming my secretary, making my appointments, my seller's call appointment, and now she takes care of my social media. When I say take care, she would make all these posts, and I would approve the post first. And that's why sometimes you see the background as being girly, But I'm fine with that. The main thing is the content, right? So, and I want to have her personality in it. I don't want to force my own personality, right? I mean, she's a girl. She's like 11 years old now. So I want her to see what she could do and be part of be part of the business, right? So, and she's having fun. I teach her, what a downspout is. I teach her what a sump pump is. I teach her like how to rehab a house. And tomorrow we're going to a house that it's closing on Tuesday. So we're gonna clear out the house. I'm going to tell her like what I did to this house, why it took so long, what happened, what's wrong, and we are going live tomorrow. So and that's also good for people to see it, right? But I want to challenge her to be able to say, hey, I can see now I can do something more, even in my current age and whichever what happened to school, that I can do something that will determine my own path. Right? So no COVID, no classroom limitation, no college is going to limit me as a person. Because that's something like, well, people think if I can get to Harvard, if I can get to Stanford, then I'm a nobody. And that's an Asian mentality, to be honest, right? UCLA, whatever these schools are that people are saying, right? It's like, it's not. I mean, that's not going to seal your path as a person. And that's what I want to challenge her, right? And now she's saying she doesn't want to go to college. She want to be a real estate investor, which I don't know if my wife likes it or not.
I was going to say, you must be scaring your wife with that.
Yeah. But my goal is, and then we agreed to this, and I've talked to this before, is that I want her to be able to get a minimum of one house every year until she's 21.
I love that.
So it's the 1-1-21 movement, right?
I absolutely love that. I mean, you started telling me about that the other night, and you got me so jazzed up on it, man. Like, the ideas have been fluttering around in my head around that, and like wanting to see that come into fruition and see that happen.
Yeah. And I mean, we've been talking to you too, and I would love to get you involved because of your influence and your you can help me with all this podcasts and YouTube and video, because I know at this point I need people, I know I need help, I know I need my Justice League, right? I can't do this by myself. I have all these ideas, I have all this content, but I need someone. I need someone to help me make this a reality. And I know it's not about just paying people. It's about getting the right team member that will believe in this vision too, and we'll do whatever he can to help each other out, make this a reality.
Absolutely. And I think I told you that first night that I'm on board, and what I learned from Pace is when you're starting to introduce something brand new into an already working machine, it's a matter of, that this machine requires you to be here from 9 o'clock in the morning till 8 o'clock at night. And that's why this machine is working. So you need to make sure that stays true and that doesn't break. And then after 8 o'clock, like yourself, when you came home from work and you said from 9 o'clock till midnight, you were now learning this new business. You were learning real estate at that point. That's when you start working on this secondary thing. And I think a lot of people get so excited that they found a new thing, they want to drop it in this space immediately, when this thing still requires you to still be fully present. So I'm all for it. And I think I expressed to you that, I have my 9 o'clock till 8 p.m. And then after that, I can, we can figure this out together, and we could work on this, and finding the right people and putting the right people in the right seat on the right bus. It's crucial. It really, as I'm finding myself in a position right now where I'm looking for people to come on board on my bus, and I'm having to be extremely selective, because a lot of people raise their hand and say they want to get on board, but I'm sure you've already experienced this. Not every hand being raised is quality. You don't want every person. You want the right person. It's like picking somebody to get into a relationship with or get into a partnership with. Every person matters, and their character matters more than the actual technical skills they potentially have, because those are going to improve over time. But the character, that's the thing that you personally can't control. You can't teach them character. You can teach them skills, but you can't teach them how to be a good human. They have to figure that out on their own.
Yeah. And again, with a lot of people with different personality, I do believe that everyone will fit somehow along the path, along the way. It's just a matter of finding the right person first to make you run on that path. And then along that path, you will be able to pick up more people.
Absolutely.
Right? Where's your starting point and how do I get this engine running? So it start running from exit 0 to exit 1. And then, and then we'll pick up more people that fits, that fits the seat, that fits where I need them to be along this journey. Right? And some people might just be the passenger, and that's fine. Right? And if that's the case, all I do is I hope I can still offer them value. So if someday when they're ready to become more than a passenger, they have the right knowledge, and they know that there are other people that went from a passenger to owning their own car, right? That's always riding on an Uber or an Uber driver to just owning a fleet of Ubers, and that will happen to people in different parts of their journey. I mean, if it happens to me, I mean, it took me close to 20, maybe 15 to 18 years to get my citizenship.
Oh, wow.
I was naturalized in, I believe it's like 2 years ago, 2017. I've been in the US since 95. So that was a long journey for me. And that was a hard journey because we got our documents missing, we got the tech bubble, and we got lawyers that took advantage of us, then ran away. We got all sorts of things, like personal things that, I haven't even told you about. It's a long journey for me to become a citizen of the United States. So, but it happened. It happened to me. And when I went there, and that even enforced my belief that, we are just people, and we, even though we come from different backgrounds, seeing all these immigrants becomes naturalized together in one room, it was like amazing. That was like something special that I didn't even like realize, the power. Like even though you're a citizen, you have to see this. You have to see, like, they would call even different people from different nationality, and and it would just be proud to say, yes, I'm an American now. That's something precious. Like, I think every American needs to see that, even though they're American.
You just gave me goosebumps because I actually did get to experience that about a year or 2 years ago with my girlfriend. She was from Azerbaijan, and she came here, and she had finally, she came here when she was 18, and after about 19 years, she finally was able to get her citizenship.
Yeah.
And it was such a cool thing. Like you said, being in that room, seeing so many different nationalities, and listening to the judge read out every person's name and the country they were from.
Exactly.
And as an American, I was like, whoa, I didn't even realize there were that many countries, let alone they were all here in America together looking to become citizens. And they had been on this crazy long journey. Because it's not a 1 night thing or a 1 month thing or even a 1 year thing. Like you just said, 19 or 18 years, that's wow. And like, that's a good sign for, people listening to recognize you're never sure where somebody is coming from. So you may look at what someone has today and think, man, they've got it so easy. They've got it all figured out. Life just works for them. Yeah, it's easy for them to do this. They've got this, and this. But you don't know what that person's starting point looked like.
Yeah.
Because we may be sitting, it's like when I go to college. When I went to college, I was sitting in classrooms, and I very quickly learned we don't all have the same starting point. Because I know where I started, and I know some other kids started here, and I know there's a kid that started way down here who he started off in Africa with absolutely nothing. He hustled his butt off. And so although we're all sitting, all three of us are sitting in the same room, we're not all in the same place in our race right now. All in very drastic different places. Well,
exactly.
That's cool. I'm happy to hear you say that and hear you share that. I have about 3 more questions for you because I want to still be respectful of your time. Because I know we can get lost in conversation very easily. And you started to tap into this a little bit earlier, saying when you first started to do your business, you had to, especially with real estate, you had to talk to your wife and let her know, honey, I'm going to be losing out on weekends now. I'm going to not be seeing you at nights anymore. It's not that I'm not here. I'm just going to be in the other room.
Hmm.
studying and learning and reading. How do you balance family life with all of the extra things that you have going on when you're building a business, when you're essentially almost permanently living in this startup culture
Yeah.
where you're constantly having pretty much a new baby? You know, like
Hmm.
building a business is like having a newborn that
Yeah.
requires all of your attention. And if you don't nurture and take care of it, it can't nurture and take care of itself.
Hmm.
So does your family ever feel like they're competing for your time and attention? And how do you handle that? How do you find balance?
It's hard. It's hard. And, there's a lot of times where, we have conflicts. There's a lot of time where, there's disappointments, to me, I think, at the end of the day, it's about seasons, right? When you know your seasons, you know what to do in that season, right? For example, when I started, my daughter was younger, so I know I get to spend quality time with them. But it's not something that they would remember per se, when they were 2 years old, they would like laugh and we would do like videos and everything. And, now I showed it to them, like they don't even remember. Right. But we remember, right? So that's for us as parents, right? To remember how cute they were before we like handle them as teenagers. Right. So, but now, so basically, when I started, my children was in the younger age, right, in 2012, right. My children was basically toddlers, and so I did to spend more time, and my wife's were basically taking care of them almost by herself, with me helping them here and there, right? And then I try to involve them in activities in my businesses. For example, in the restaurant, right? I would have them help in the weekends. They would stay in the basement, and I would just go down, and they were watching something. I would task them, and I would interact whenever I can, right? I would make time for them whenever I can. Before we get busy, then I would go out, and as they grow up, I would involve them more in the business, right? For example, my daughters growing up, I mean, my wife has been all over, like she's always been supportive of my businesses, and she's always been involved in the restaurant too, in the kitchen, in the front, whatever she can help, right? Which is I'm really appreciative. And my daughters been helping as a busser, as cleaning up. I have them do everything. Turn over chairs, greet the guests, take over like orders or give new plates. Everything that I involved in the restaurant, I involve them because I want to be spending time with them, right? And I want them to learn that in order to succeed, this is what you have to do, right? And so and also like one thing is we also had a long talk with my wife before I opened the restaurant, because my wife at that point was staying at home to raise our child, right? I was the only one that was working. And so I said, well, if I'm going to open the restaurant, are you open to going back full-time to work so that we can get the insurance, the health insurance, right? For our child. And so, yeah, she was fine with that. And that's how I opened the restaurant. So there are mechanism in the background that you have to understand. This is why I love talking to people, because like, I know you are so into real estate, but don't forget your family. You at the end of the day, you are responsible for your family first, right? Real estate can take on the second part, right? It's not worth it if you do real estate successful and you lose your family,
Oh man,
right?
dude, that's gold right there. That is
Yeah.
so true. And I'm happy that you're saying that, especially because it's coming from you as someone that has lived through it, that has experience, that's currently living through it. Hopefully it resonates with people and they are listening and they truly hear that it's not worth it to gain everything, but lose the people that you care about in the process.
Mm-hmm.
Ultimately, there's certain things can be sacrificed, but then there are also lines that you don't cross. So
Yeah.
to hear that you had those conversations and you both agreed upon what the sacrifices would be,
Mm-hmm.
like first off, your wife sounds like an absolute rock star. So she's awesome
Yep.
for supporting you in that way. And you're a ridiculously lucky man to have found
Mm-hmm.
her. And that knowing that it was a conversation that was had and it wasn't just you making a decision for the both of you. You
Mm-hmm.
became a family unit. You became an us, a we, and us and we had to make the decision. So it wasn't just Oscar making a decision
Oh yeah.
and running off on his own and doing that. Because then when Oscar would have come home, he would have been coming home to an empty house.
Yep.
You know, so
Yep.
that's awesome, man. I'm happy to hear that. And I imagine that, you know, those conversations are still had even today as new things start to pop up. You have new conversations and you check the landscape again. You check the terrain.
Yep. And it becomes, to me, I'm glad it becomes easier because now my children are growing and now they want to know about the business. You know, my Audrey, my 12 years old, I mean, she wants to be a real estate investor. You know, she wants to go. And, you know, and I mean, I start her day off every time I say, when I wake up, you wake up. So if I wake up at 7 a.m., I'm going to wake you up to make me coffee.
Nice.
That's the first thing. And then you're going to start, you know, with the Instagram posts, and you're going to start with reading my schedules. Right. And then guess what? I'm teaching her the same thing too. Right. I'm teaching her to time block. I'm teaching her to put her schedules. And guess what? It goes into our personal thing too. Like, well, don't forget, you have to go to the doctor for your physical checkup. And I want you to remind me. You have to go to a dentist. You have to remind me. Right. So I'm giving her responsibilities. Right. And, you know, I'm giving her a reminder. I have to call the seller. I have to go here. I have to go there. So the responsibility increases slowly every week. Right. And now I try to tell her, well, why don't I give you a house now? Right. So that you can try to manage it and say, no, I want to talk to the seller and get my own house.
Wow. That had to have made you feel awesome.
Yeah. So I feel good about that. And I said, yeah, well, yeah, okay. So we'll get you an easy seller, and, you know, we'll have you talk and, you know, we'll get a house for you this year.
And I just, knowing you, I feel like you're going to figure out a way to brand that and like, hey, honey, use the fact that you're an adorable little girl to your advantage. Take over the seller's heart and let them know what you're trying to do. Go have her play the story up. I want to take care of mom and dad. You know, like, sell me this house, please. I only have this many pennies to put into it.
The cool thing is it'll be a challenge for her because of her age. And you know how people look at, you know, young people right nowadays, right? But there'll be another challenge of her own. And I love that she's able to say, I want to do it. I want to see how it goes, you know, and I'll be helping throughout the whole way, you know. So as a parent, as a businessman, right? So, you know, we're changing our family tree still. And, you know, that's a part of my passion too, is, you know, to be able to meet people and change their family trees too.
Oscar, oh man, you're getting me more and more excited for the 1/1/21 initiative.
Yeah, man, we have great plans, and hopefully, you know, we'll talk more and brainstorm more. And like, I mean, it's going to be tough, but it's going to be as exciting, and it's going to change a lot of people's mindset, you know, whether they can start ground running off or they'll have a couple of years to think about it, but they'll definitely change their mind, especially in this new, I mean, people say it's a new world. People say it's a new normal, but to me, it's all new opportunities. Absolutely. Brand new opportunities for people who don't think they have this type of opportunities happen if it was not for COVID.
So final two questions here. Question one is mindset. You know, you just said it, and I'm happy that we got to segue here because this is ultimately what it's all about. This is why we call this show Into the Mind. Mm-hmm. How important is having the proper mindset to you? And is it something that you create as a daily ritual, or is your mindset something that you set and forget? Or what's mindset? When I say mindset, what's that sound like to you? What's that mean to you?
To me, that means, you know, two things. There's a long term and there's a short term, right? The long term is, you know, for me, what is the vision of what you're doing, right? And there's also a vision long term. There's also a short term mission, right? So that I wake up every day to know, like, what's my mission daily, and then I would circle back every month, every 2 months, every quarter. What's my vision and where I am in that vision? So that's how I built my mindset, right? So if you ask me, my mindset goes down one level into vision and mission. and that also involved in my faith also, right? That's also like how the vision and mission that I have always was impacted by my faith, right? And family, and what I want to do with my family, right? So where we want to be, how do we want to change, how do we want to break the mold, right? So that's the mindset that I have, like going into any type of business, right? What do you want to do to change people's life, not just your own, right? What kind of I even thinking about what kind of legacy I want to leave my children. Like if I were to be like adopted by aliens, like Pace says, right, in next week, what kind of legacy I want to build them, right? And that's I think about that every day. I think about that every time I wake up. It's like, what can I do? What can I do to change this? What can I do to be effective? Now, it's going to have its moment of failures, right? But because you have a strong foundation, and you write down your mindset somewhere, as your goal, then you always eventually is going to win.
I
Right?
absolutely
So,
love that. I agree with every word you just said. A part of me wants to dive deeper into that for another 2 hours, but we can do that on another
yeah.
episode on another podcast one day.
Yep.
But I do now want to ask you one of my favorite questions, and it is the question I ask every guest that comes on this show, no matter what their background or what they do. And the question is, if you woke up tomorrow and you had absolutely no memory of anything, you didn't remember your name, you didn't remember who you were, where you were, you didn't remember any of your friendships or relationships, you lost all of the technical knowledge that you've built for every industry. So pretty much you are a blank slate. You can still speak the language, but you are just this blank slate of human being again. However, you were able to retain one bit of knowledge, one piece of wisdom that you knew to be true for yourself. Like it was in your heart of hearts. You knew this information to be true. You didn't care to question it. You didn't even care to ask why you knew it was true. You just trusted that what you had in your mind, that thought that you had in there was absolutely true, and you ran with it. What would that bit of knowledge be?
The to be honest, the first thing that came to my mind is that I have a God, and I have a God that is powerful, and I have a God that can I can rely faith on, and I can fall into His hand. That's it. That's all I need, because everything to me is about my faith and my belief, right? I fail a lot. I like every time I fail, I feel like so stupid, right? Regardless of how people see me, regardless of what you think I am, every time I fall down, I feel so stupid that I want to quit. But if it's not because of the faith that I have, I wouldn't be able to be where I am right now. And that's something that I treasure. If like you said, that thought came into my mind, because of health and everything, right? You never know, just how I can connect with that, because one of me and my wife's favorite movie is 50 First Dates.
Oh, I love that movie.
I don't know if you remember that, right?
Yeah, with Adam
So
Sandler. I love that movie.
that's similar to what you're saying, right? What if you wake up to a person who doesn't remember anything about what they did the last 24 hours, the last year, the last 10 years, right? It's faith, it's faith, and knowing that when you wake up, there's a higher power. That's it.
I love that answer. I truly do. And as a young guy, I'll let you know, and we started talking about this the other night when we were in the room together, that growing up, faith was something, or even like religion and God, those were things I pushed away to the side, and I just kind of rebelled against it. And as I'm getting older, I'm starting to realize, well, no, the things that have always worked out in my life, they did come from a place of faith. It did come from God. And whether you call it God or the universe, or it's that higher power, whatever, we don't need to argue. I think a lot of people get so caught up in trying to define the name that they miss the entire point. And I don't care what name you want to assign to God or to universe or to higher intelligence or whatever, recognizing that it's there to work for you and to work through you, and you are a part of it. So That's a really cool answer, and I'm happy to hear you say that would be the thing that you retained.
Yeah.
Oscar, seriously, thank you from the bottom of my heart for coming on today. I know that this conversation was extremely valuable to me, and I know that it will be extremely valuable to the people that tune in and listen, and that this recording will exist online for people to come across at the right time. When they listen to
Oh
it,
yeah.
they will have the ability to come back and listen again. And each time they're going to find something more valuable. So
Mm-hmm.
thank you for sharing today. If people wanted to follow you, where
Mm-hmm.
could they find you and where could they learn more about what you're doing for the future and just get to know you more?
Yeah, easy. Go to Instagram and I'm at Oscar the Closer.
I love that. At Oscar the Closer on Instagram.
On Instagram.
All right. And I will, when I post this, I will tag that so people could look down in the description and they can find you. So, guys,
Perfect.
if you enjoyed listening to Oscar today as much as I do and enjoyed talking to him, go and follow him, see what he has to say. His posts are extremely motivational. The live videos he does with his daughter, where he goes out and he walks property, that, in my opinion, is free mentorship right there. That's $10,000 worth of mentorship that you're getting for free via Instagram and Facebook Live. So check that out. And, you know, leave him a comment. Let him know that you saw this. Let him know that you liked this. And
Yeah.
ultimately, if you got value out of today, share this with a friend. Build your network. That is
Yep.
the best way for you to grow. Grow the people around you, because as they go up, they can pull you up. Remember, something I heard is people can only pull you down if they're beneath you. So if you're finding a lot of people pulling you down, that means there's a lot of people beneath you. What you need to do instead is pull them up. The same way you're pulling yourself up by listening to something like this today, listening to podcast, share this with a friend. Give them that gift of growth and knowledge.
Yeah, that would be the easiest way. And even to create new network is to share the information that help you grow. So if you listen to this and you feel like you got values, share that to everyone. That's how you create new network. That's how you give your initial value to people. Forget about talking about books that you like, what you think that you want to do, your dreams. Share the information that is helpful to you. When it helps other people, then that's where they see your value.
I love it. Oscar, thank you so much.
Thank you. Yeah, you're my first podcast, so I do appreciate this so much, and I learned a lot. So hopefully, this is to a better and greater things that we, you, and me, and some other students that we can get involved, and we can grow this network.
Absolutely. All right.